discounted the best way to do it. Well, then what about
Did you think about that all day? That was a terrible analogy.
What about the Democrat Attorney General of New Jersey, who just
What's going on, you guys? We have Sam Seder and Abby Phillip destroying MAGA voter fraud lies. Let's get into it.
Corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt. And you know that we're the only country in the world, I believe, I may be wrong, but just about the only country in the world that uses them because of what's happened. Massive fraud all over the place.
Mail-in ballots are not corrupt. Fraud rates in federal elections are tiny, and dozens of countries use mail-in voting, despite what Trump claims. So why is the president suddenly so amped up about this again? Well, apparently someone got in his ear. Someone with a history of fair elections and a wealth of knowledge when it comes to election integrity.
Vladimir Putin, smart guy, said you can't have an honest election with mail-in voting. And he said there's not a country in the world that uses it now.
Yes, Mr. President, he would know because you'll recall that Vladimir Putin changed Russia's constitution to remain in power. Many of his opponents are either dead or in prison or in exile. Russia is notorious for vote tampering, restrictions on monitors, and rampant voter intimidation. And yes, Russia has interfered with America's elections. But perhaps the most important point is that it's unclear what the administration could actually do to end mail-in voting, since that power belongs to the states. Just ask the Constitution. Joining us in our fifth seat at the table is Sam Seder, host of the Majority Report. I don't know if President Trump forgot that he did this, but let me just play it. This is September 2024, about a year ago, when he said this to his own supporters.
You know that absentee ballots are about to go out in North Carolina? In other words, it's time to start thinking about let's vote. So important. This will be the most important election in the history of our country. So whether it's mail-in ballots, early voting, voting on the day, you got to get out and vote. We want to save our country. We're the only one going to save it. That other group of people, they're going to destroy our country.
It is interesting how Trump is now wanting to push for the end of mail-in voting. Now that it is midterms coming up, now that he had met with Vladimir Putin, who has done nothing but rig the elections to just stay in power the entire time, all of these different ideas are coming up. And maybe he just lacks the awareness to see how he is getting affected by who he's hanging out with, who he's keeping company.
Mail-in ballots. He was fine with it.
Well, it was because his Republican strategists were panicking because they realized that they were going to lose without getting those mail-in ballots now. And I would imagine this time around, those same Republican strategists are also panicking because if he goes out there and starts to spread the word that mail-in ballots aren't going to work, this is going to be a real problem in the midterms for those Republicans, plus the fact that he has no authority to do this. I mean, he tried to pass he wrote up an executive order a couple of months ago to deal with the voting, and he got shot down by 2 different federal judges. So there's really there's no path for him here, and it's sort of fascinating that all it takes is one suggestion from Putin. I mean, what were they doing talking about 2020 during these meetings? Like, he's like a cat. It's like no object permanence here.
Where were the staff to remind the president that it's actually not true what he claimed, which is that the federal government let me just read it actually. Remember, the states are merely an agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes. They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them for the good of our country to do. That is not at all what the Constitution says. You know that because you're a conservative.
Abby, I agree with you. States have a huge role to play when it comes to elections. We also know that in 2020, as a result of the COVID pandemic, a lot of states went very aggressively in the direction of mail-in ballots.
Which they are entitled to do because they are in charge of the time, manner of the elections. They are in charge of that.
Even the U.S. Election Assistance Commission has studied mail-in ballots and said that there are a certain percentage, I believe like 500,000, that probably aren't ultimately delivered to their final destination. So I'd put this question to all of you. If you won the New York lottery, would you mail in your $1 million winning lotto ticket, or would you want to take it physically to the office to cash it in? I think if anybody wants to ensure that their vote is counted, the best way to do it. Well, then what about
that was a terrible analogy.
What about the Democrat Attorney General of New Jersey, who just
And at the end of the day, let's be real, they just want it to be harder and harder for the people that they don't want to vote. They want it to be harder for them to vote. They put these, just ballot places in these hard to reach spots. There's actually less ballot places in areas that are, predominantly African American. They're making it harder to get to, especially now, like places like, this is my experience. I lived in Alabama for a period of time. They make the places to go vote. They don't have as many of them in the areas, where they may have more Democratic voters just in general. They may not want those type of voters to go out there. It's all planned. This is not something that is brand new. This is something that's been here the entire time. And, for people to act like that's not the underlying thing going on, you got to really, just start to see it with reality, setting in.
An hour from here in Paterson, New Jersey, there was corruption and they're investigating voter fraud because there was a politician who used mail-in ballots to try to steal the election.
Voting is like I like the lottery. Let's talk about why that analogy was just terrible. So like voting is a right and playing the lottery is a privilege, right? Those are two vastly different things. And the right means that you should make it free and fair. Everyone should have access to it. We should actually be trying to make voting as easy as possible so that we're more inclusive. Things like Oregon is what we should be talking about, where they have Tobias Read and automatic voter registration. That's where we should be going with this, not necessarily trying to crack down on it. Yes, we want to eliminate voter fraud, but if we want to go back to 2020, and the great irony in this, and I haven't heard neither one of you all have said a bad thing about Vladimir Putin tonight. Neither one of you all. And Vladimir Putin is someone who literally has killed his enemies, has killed his political opponents, has pushed them off roofs and poisoned them and all of these things. And he is the one who said that this is something you should deal with. Right. And he went on Sean Hannity and quoted it.
I did say, by the way, that I believe the first comment I made was that he was a tyrant and shouldn't be trusted.
Wait, you're drifting from...
You know what?
You're drifting from
I give you credit. I was really talking
about Vladimir Putin. This is about voter fraud.
Say something bad about Vladimir Putin.
That is about voter fraud. But let's hear
not just
one
Paterson.
example.
I'm going to give you 5. In Paterson, New Jersey is the one.
Just 5?
No, more.
That's it?
I found a bunch.
How many votes?
Sioux City, Iowa, North Carolina, 9, 2018, Appalachia, Virginia, 2006, Miami mayor was overturned in 97, Bridgeport, Connecticut was just overturned.
Okay.
Not every ballot.
So Joe, tell me
not every ballot.
Tell me the degree to which mail-in voting fraud was enough to change the result of a presidential election. Where is that?
I can't pronounce the name. In Michigan,
of a
in Miami,
presidential election.
But not every election is about the presidential race. We also elect people at the state, federal, and local level.
But
the point I'm trying to make is
Trump is making this statement based on his own experience.
Let me finish the point. Not every ballot mailed in is fraud. But it's almost always the case where you have fraudulent ballots. It's done not just by mail ballots, but paper ballots, absentee ballots. So if the president wants to secure ballot integrity in a better way, I am 100% for this. Now, you all, last segment, were so worried about the MAGA base and how they would react to troops on the ground.
Can I just ask a clarifying question of you, Joe? You said you're all for what the president wants to do, but he is saying he wants to federally, he wants the president by decree to ban mail-in voting in this.
So there we have it, you guys. We have Sam Seder and Abby Phillip going in on these different lies. We can see that it is just Trump the entire time doing what he wants to do out here, wanting to just straight up lie and taking a page out of Vladimir Putin's playbook. But yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments. It's another day in the progressive way.